You're listening to Subsound Radio. We bring you streaming and live broadcasting from the capital. This is the El Arpa Podcast. What is heavier, a brown bear or a woman that's 58 kg? That's the question we'll be answering in today's podcast, specifically in part 3. This is the El Arpa podcast coming back at you after a little hiatus again. My name is Enda. Joining me in studio, of course, is
Maria.
How are you doing?
I'm good, thank you. You?
So, everybody's talking about the Oscars. Yeah?
Yeah.
It kind of pisses me off.
Why?
Because we have just released our own video about the food banks, Banco de Alimentos in Madrid, and nobody's talking about it. So, give it time, build it, and they will come. So you can find it on our YouTube channel and our Twitter feed. So if you have some time to kill, go there. So in today's podcast, we're going to talk about the scintillating, exciting art exhibition that was in Madrid. We went to the Fundación Maria Cristina Peterson.
No.
No, we did. I look at the poster, that's what's written down. Where did we go? Conde Duque.
We went to Conde Duque, but the exhibition is kind of like sponsored by this fundación.
Okay, and what's the name of it? El Viajero Inmóvil, no?
Ah, the name of the exhibition,
yeah.
Yes. I thought you meant the name of the fundación, as you just read it.
No.
Yes, El Viajero Inmóvil.
And for those who are not Spanish speakers, and for people with only a B2 level of Spanish, what does that translate to?
Well, like a mobile still traveler.
Mm-hmm. The still traveler.
In mobile or still.
Okay, so
not moving.
Bit of a contradiction, eh?
Exactly.
We're going to explore that in part 2. Clever. What else have we done? Can't remember. Went to the virtual reality. Mentioned that in the last podcast.
Yes,
made the video. We're making a new video about Spanish expressions that are used commonly in English for lower speakers. So lower level speakers of English who are Spanish and who use Spanish expressions because they can't think of connectors in the English. So we'll be working on that.
So basically the ones who are not listening to this podcast.
Yeah, because it's too high level, right? You know Vaughan Radio? They say if you're a low level speaker, you shouldn't watch movies because it'd be too frustrating, and you would get discouraged by the difficulty, and you would run away and not want to learn English ever again. Do you think that's too hardcore?
I think that's just silly because a lot of students like watching, movies, and sometimes they watch them in Spanish and then they watch them in English again, and it's kind of like a motivation for them, even if it's a little bit difficult.
Yeah, I guess if you're a B1, you can follow it and get some payoff from it, and there's a lot of level appropriate videos out there. So I think, it's an important part of learning, and I like showing videos in my classes, so I think it's a way for students to learn, and of course they enjoy watching television, so why not combine them both? I just don't know why they would say that.
Well, I think he's only saying it because he wants you to watch his videos and listen to his radio and so on.
You see, I wouldn't have actually picked up on that. I'm just a young, innocent babe in the wood, and you're kind of cynical and world weary, and you know how the world works, and it just goes over my head, and I get hurt by that. But
luckily, I tell you.
You've made me realise you've opened my eyes. I'm through the looking glass here. So in part 2, we're going to talk about this exhibition. It's going to come after this musical interlude. And part 3, that answer to that humdinger of a question we opened the podcast with. What's heavier, a brown bear or a woman who's 58 kg? After an epic 3-hour walk to the destination, we finally arrived at Conde Duque. We got lost several times.
We always get lost. I
but
don't know how.
To that big building that we can never find our way to. So, it's called the Immobile Traveler. Can you give us the Spanish name again?
El viajero inmóvil.
Okay, and who is the artist, the originator of this exhibition?
Well, he's a photographer, an artist called Chema Madoz.
Okay, so it was your idea to come here, or to go there, to see it.
So I am to blame.
No. Is this guy famous, or what?
I wouldn't say famous, but he is fairly well known, amongst the
artists and stuff,
artists
and the art-going public.
Yeah.
You obviously knew his work well enough to want to go there, right? Or you liked...
Yeah, I'd seen it before. I missed a previous exhibition a year or two ago, and I really wanted to go and see another one. The other exhibition was a bit of everything, really. It didn't have a theme such as this one. And what I didn't know, that I found out when we went, was that this was only kind of like a commission to show views of Asturias, essentially.
Okay.
Yeah, which is a region in Spain, the north of Spain.
And Asturias, for those who don't know it, how would you describe this northern region of Spain? I can think green,
wet.
bagpipes.
It's Ireland. No, there's no bagpipes in Ireland.
No, there's not. It's a common mistake by ignorant Spanish students.
Yeah.
So it's very wet. It's very green. Of course, they drink a lot of cider as well. It's famous for that.
Yeah. True.
Asturias, do you think it has a certain reputation in Spain? I know Galicians, for example, who are their close neighbours. I've heard recently if they go up a stairs, or if you meet them on the stairs, you don't know if they're going up or down after talking to them for hours, because they don't give anything away. And Mariano Rajoy is a Galician as well. He's a Gallego, isn't he?
Mm-hmm.
So they're kind of tight-lipped. They don't give away information. They're poker-faced.
They're famous for not answering questions.
They answer a question on a question.
Exactly, that's it.
What about Asturians? Are they...
Well, Asturias, everybody loves Asturias. I haven't met anybody who said, "Oh, Asturias is horrible." Especially people in Madrid really love going to Asturias.
Okay,
because there's a lot of nature and
There's a lot of nature around Madrid. Is there different nature?
I know. Yeah, well, first of all, people don't realize quite how much nature there is around Madrid.
Well, you're close to the mountains.
Yeah.
There's a huge nature reserve that I didn't know about until last year, which has so many different types of animals. It's ridiculous. It's like a huge nature reserve. I don't remember the name, so don't ask me. I can tell by your face you're gearing up for that question. And there's also, you can go to the mountains for bird watching and to see vultures and everything. So it actually is rich in the surrounding environment for flora and fauna, but maybe people aren't aware of that. So they head north to Asturias. Apart from the nature, is there anything else that is the novelty of the greenery fascinating for Madrileños, because it's quite brown, especially if you see the city from the air. You're landing from a Ryanair flight from Dublin.
It's just the grey skies.
The grey skies, yeah. Does it make them all melancholy and romantic? And
no, I mean that's why it looks brown.
Oh, the pollution in Madrid.
In comparison, yeah.
to Asturias, the north in general. So before we get into the nitty gritty, did you like it?
I was slightly disappointed, I would say.
Okay, and as you can probably guess from the title, it's about traveling but staying still. What was this? What was the motivation behind this?
Well, the whole idea, according to the introduction, was to show us, make us think about Asturias without necessarily showing us Asturias. Yeah. So the idea was to use like evocative images to make us think of the main things that we know about Asturias.
To represent it in an abstract, conceptually. It's conceptual art.
Yes.
And he did this because he, I suppose he's famous for his sense of humor, so maybe he's playing with the audience by having a feature on traveling and a different place, but with very fixed and very specific images. Because I suppose I asked you the questions about the generalizations, and they're very sweeping, very broad. No, Asturias is very green, or the character of the people is a certain way, but these are focusing on very specific items, and very practical items sometimes, or very everyday items, to express his vision of the exhibition. No, and so there's a wide collection there. Do you remember any of the paintings in particular that caught your eye for good or for bad?
Well, there was a large one of sort of like polygons that were forming some sort of beach, and we discussed that for a little while because we had different interpretations.
Yeah, you said it was grains of sand blowing up, because when you blow up grains of sand, they have different shapes.
Well, not just grains of sand, but the sand, the shells,
The-
stones.
The debris of the sea, no, being washed on the shore.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm.
Well, I felt, rightly or wrongly, that there was a common theme running through this exhibition where you had displacement and the order of things being inverted. So where there's water, there's land, and where there's land, there's water. And I think also he was playing with the idea of giving order to nature, because in nature you find a lot of order with the symmetry, dimensions, with lines and circumferences and all these different kind of equations. And in man-made structures you might find it as much, surprisingly. And I found that this picture, which looks like a lump of boxes against a grey sea and a grey sky, lots of clouds in it as well. It's like the wood of man-made things being washed upon the shore, like the wood of ships and other things, but not only being washed up, because they're usually, when they're washed, they're shipwrecked. It's everywhere, but it's being washed up in an almost orderly and tidy way. So that was my maybe very reaching,
more romantic vision.
Not romantic. I don't think it's romantic at all, but I just think that's what his point of view for that particular picture was. Like, for example, there's another picture of a wooden axe cutting a piece of wood. And do you remember what we discussed about that?
Yeah, I think, well, you made a point about how the element that was being cut, or the nature that the object was intervening with, was made of the same material as the object itself. So obviously the axe normally has a wooden handle, and in this case the blade is wood as well.
Exactly.
And what is cutting is also wood, so
yeah.
It's just playing with.
Yeah, because you're using the wood to destroy the wood, but it goes back into the earth again, no? Because it rots, or it gets burned.
Ashes to ashes.
Ashes to ashes. God rest you, David Bowie. So those are two of the images. And then, of course, there was the ice cream cone with the seashell on top of it, no?
There was. That looked like the word of them.
Yeah, the whipped soft serve ice cream, no?
Mm-hmm.
I know, it seemed to be more displacement, and also just saying in a way that you have ice cream by the sea, you have fun by the seaside. But I think what he's doing, because it works in lots of different ways in general, just outside this exhibition as well, parodies of movie tropes and different genres. They make things funny by putting them out of context. So, for example, the Hot Shots movies from a long time ago, to use an example that's maybe a little bit obscure, but like, they're acting so serious. The Airplane movies, Leslie Nielsen and Naked Gun, these are all people who are acting like they're in a serious movie, but obviously it's a farce. And I know of a story of a soundtrack guy, a composer, who had to score the Beavis and Butthead movie, which is of course a very silly, absurd movie as well. And he'd never done before, and he asked advice from another soundtrack guy, and he said just to act like you're scoring a serious movie, like you're not in on the joke, for example. So pulling things out of their natural fabric and habitat and pulling them somewhere else, it has a natural reaction, because we instantly instinctively recognize it just doesn't fit, for example. And it's true, because we have this idyllic view of the seaside, obviously, and it's merited. It's worth having that, because you have a nice time there. It's beautiful. You have a lot of music and fun and lots of different things. But you wouldn't eat a cone of a seashell, for example, and all these things that we don't see under the surface that are important for the habitat and the ecosystem of the sea, and things that make everything else function and tick. We don't see it as beautiful, but we wouldn't have all that other stuff that ancillary stuff without the fundamentals of the nature that provides it, for example. So I think he's giving us something that looks initially weird, but we don't have the ice cream if we don't have the seashell, for example. So I don't know. I mean, conceptual art gives so little that you're really working very hard to kind of apply some kind of meaning to it. So I could be completely wrong, and I wouldn't be surprised if I was. But I would think that I'm somewhere in the ballpark. Maybe that's what he's kind of going for, as well.
Hmm? I was thinking also more in terms of textures, because when you look at the picture, you don't you see the shape of an ice cream. So first of all, it's like playing with your mind, because kind of like your brain fills in the information, and then it's only when you look at it in more detail that you realize that some of the information your brain has put there, for example, like the whipped cream, is not so, it's something else. Exactly. So that instantly sort of like makes you look at it, in more detail. And then the second thing that strikes you is that shape that you interpret it as something soft, like your brain processed as something soft, is actually something quite hard.
But isn't it like a cone as well? Because a cone is the hard part, even though it's brittle and can break easily, but it functions as the hard part, and the ice cream is the soft part, and the shell hides maybe sea creatures, or the shell of another animal, like a slug, for example, hides a soft underbelly or a soft creature inside of it as well. So maybe he's talking about how in nature, in every part of it, there are these little and large, hard and soft, double comedy takes, these partners that partner up in different ways. I don't know, maybe it's a combination that happens frequently in different contexts.
Yeah, I suppose there are so many things that you can,
Could be all brilliant, could be all bollocks, we don't know.
Yeah, I think he plays with the shock factor, and once he's attracted your attention by creating something that is not what you're expecting, then that makes you think, well, is this about recalling the seaside, or is this about making it I don't know, empty of its meaning, because in reality that's what it does.
Maybe he's playing with our perceptions of the exhibition, because you might have these novelty pictures or things that look strange, like a cone holding a shell, or a wooden axe made completely of wood, and then on the surface it's soft, but then underneath it there's some kind of hard work you have to do, because you have to work hard to decipher it. And on the flip side, maybe there is no truly deeper meaning to it, and it's just a bit of fun, and it's a sense of humor. So what we think actually looks hard, like, and disgusting, like a shell in an ice cream cone, or some of the other pictures, actually just having the laugh for the sake of having the laugh, for example. So going from hard to soft, or from soft to hard, I don't know. It's a lot of different interpretations to it. One picture that we couldn't really get our heads around was a picture of an apple, and then some musical notes behind it.
Yeah.
Possibly the apple makes us think of cider, because it's a breeding ground for cider, and the musical notes.
Well, perhaps the bagpipes again that we've spoken about before.
Yeah, maybe.
It's two things that are quite stereotypically associated to Asturias, and rightly so, really.
Well, the thing is, I think it's another question in context, because if you're making a football crest for a football club, or a family coat of arms, or a city emblem, you would put those natural things together because they represent something. No, so okay, this is Asturias. We have the music. We have the cider. So if you're making a city crest or a city motto or whatever, you'd have those represented, and it wouldn't be weird, because that's what happens with coats of arms and crests and symbols like that. But when you strip away that context, it's like, what do those images mean? But if we can verbalize what Asturias is through bagpipes and through cider, why can't it be represented pictorially? And it's just that, nothing beyond that. So again, I don't know if that's what he's going for, but it's interesting to see it. And was there any other image that you thought was interesting?
There was one that caught our attention, that was kind of like a train track. Well, it was a toy.
A train going in a square, and I mean, again, I think it fits in what we were saying with earlier, and also the novelty of seeing it just going not in a circle, because as that's what you normally say when you're
Yeah, exactly.
when you're going around in circles and you're not really getting anywhere, but going in a square is a little bit different. So again, just slightly shifting our perceptions. But the one I want to focus on lastly in this part of the podcast is the one with the horseshoe. And
there was some discussion about that.
yeah, because you think it's shaped in a particular way.
Well, obviously it's not just like a horseshoe. It has like some ends on either side, some extra, bit on either side, which made it look like an omega, like a letter,
Okay.
like a Greek letter. So obviously it's something to do with, the end and, well, alpha and omega. It's got a lot of symbolism of like the beginning and the end of life, the universe, and so on.
And you know why a horseshoe?
In a horseshoe, I can only imagine that it's just related to, cattle or whatever in Asturias.
Yeah. Do you think the general culture in Asturias, from the music to the poems and the books and the movies, is rooted in a lot of natural beauty? For example, a lot of movies in Ireland would focus on the landscapes. Do you think that's part of the Asturian identity?
I think it's, yes. I think it's similar in that respect.
So I mean, basically, do you think this whole exhibition? So a horseshoe is man-made, but it's put on an animal. It looks like an omega, which is a language invented by people. So it's all this mixing of animate and inanimate objects and nature and man-made things, and it's just a testament to that nature, to that fact, no?
Yeah, and I would say also like human modification of nature, because we see that, for example, on the beach, how, as you were saying, things shouldn't be that perfect, and they are like polygons. So there's some there has to be some intervention for that. For example, in your view, and also with the train tracks, because obviously like some square train tracks like that are not the normal.
Well, I think
thing that we see.
I think it's man and nature, but at the junctures where it's man against nature, I think the artist is rooting for nature. And nature wins, because nobody wins if the train is going in a square, and nobody wins if they're licking an ice cream cone with a shell on top of it, So I think it's mostly about our reliance on nature, our symbiotic relationship with it, and if there's any point where we're in conflict with it, nature subtly but surely triumphs over us as well. So forever.
Hence the omega.
Hence the omega. Well, yeah, nature will always be there. Us, maybe not so much. But this is Conde Duque. It's on until April, isn't it? It's on
16th of April.
16th of April. So if you're in Madrid, if you want to check it out, it's worth a visit. No.
Definitely.
Okay, so stay tuned for part 3. Welcome back to part 3 of the show. So I hope you enjoyed the lengthy and perhaps pointless discussion of what it may or may not mean. We have no idea, but then again, neither do you. So some parish notices. We're going to be on the front cover of a football magazine, Box to Box Next Journal. We're going to get published with an interview with an American footballer. One of us is going to Ibiza to go party with hardcore drugs for the weekends, and then possibly get radicalized in Syria or South Sudan after that.
We'll be explaining that in the future.
Or not. So that's, so we were pretty busy doing different things.
As always.
So we'll be back soon, next week, with a podcast, so stay tuned for that.
Next week in the world of merienda, that could be 1 week or 20.
Yeah, it could be. And so just the surprise keeps me engaged, interested. So hopefully it's the same for you. And find us on LARPA1, which is our Twitter handle, and YouTube, LARPA English Academy. That's where you can find all our fantastic videos. If my mother hasn't accidentally sent a video to you by now on WhatsApp, She probably will, or if she doesn't, find it on YouTube. Anything else?
Well, I think you had a question.
The woman who 58 kg, she's heavier than a bear. And if you don't know why, tune in next week. Bye.
Bye.
You're listening to Subsound Radio. We bring you streaming and live broadcasting from the capital. This is the El Arpa Podcast.